Now, this next address is quite ironic because I have been asked to congratulate you for your enthusiasm on the twittering front, but asked to remind you not to do it during the sessions and only during the break periods. Consider yourselves branded and told. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to introduce our next speaker, who is Jacob Pereira, Senior Business Development Manager at Dell. Jacob Pereira is a senior gentleman in Dell, where he is responsible for driving the server and data center portfolio for Asia Pacific and Japan. In this role, he provides direction on server and data center program priorities and sales strategies to the APJ solution. And his title this afternoon is Dynamic Data Center Driving Innovation in Virtual Era. So, gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Jacob Pereira.
Good morning, everyone. Had a good coffee break? So today what I want to do is capture some of the feedback that you've given through the sessions and try to relate it back to this presentation. Now, a lot of the discussions that have been around this whole panel was around the CIO's role within the business. So when we talk about unlocking efficiency, there can't be a divide between the business and the CIO. So I'll give you some scenarios on how Dell has overcome this and also share you some insights on some best practices with some customers we've had. So when we look at the impact of inefficiencies, let's look at everyone in this room. How many devices do you carry? How many carry more than 2 devices today? There's a few of you. In part of that device, what is the commercial aspect that you utilize that relates to your business? A lot of us use iPhones, iPads, tablets as an area to consume information. But most of that information is not coming to our organization. We're working around to go and collaborate with other companies to get something done for our organization. So when we look at the inefficiencies, it's derived from a couple of areas. When we look at our employee sets, more devices are coming into the space. We have people like yourselves carrying laptops, tablets, mobile phones, and you're also getting a younger generation of the mobile workforce. Okay? They're going to be ahead of us in terms of how they request IT services. Let's use an example of the Apple App Store. It's the easiest way to buy a game, it's an easiest way to consume music, and it's setting the direction of how media is getting distributed. When we look at that, there's an explosion of data, and the instant gratification of IT becomes even greater for the CIOs. So when we talk about IT on demand, try to relate it in terms of how it applies to your business. So the IT agenda has changed. We've seen this slide come up in different facets during this conference. But essentially, you should have one key agenda for your organization. How do I come to a common goal and a business objective where I can drive efficiency and deliver to that promise? Okay, now let me give you an example. If we look at the next generation data centers, there's certain key principles that we need to follow. There's no longer an option where we can have the ability to rip and replace, pull down a data center for a couple of weeks. It's no longer an option. So some of the keys to the next generation data centers is optimize without starting over. So there's a few areas you have to go through. We had Arun talk about, I don't want to hear anything about cloud. Cloud's still very confusing. Now, to get the cloud, you have to follow certain steps. One is to standardize, simplify, and then automate. The second thing is change the way your users, your employees, your business people within your organization embrace IT. So that's going beyond the rack, looking at maintenance costs, and driving greater efficiencies. Now, when we talk about optimizing IT services delivery, now this can be as simple as deploying a client image to your end users. Now, if you look at your current state of affairs today within your organization, how many images are you maintaining within your organization? How many images, server images, are you maintaining to run your business? So we'll touch a bit on that as I go through the Dell experience. And the last thing is, how do we then leverage cloud efficiencies to start delivering IT as a service? So the transformation in Dell IT, Paul touched upon in his keynote. We have shown to our customers that we were able to reduce our IT budgets and move it from 28% to 52% in innovation. Now, it's good to put some key points up there, but how did we do it? So let's look at how Dell freed up this 300 million. First and foremost, they started off by standardizing on a certain platform. So how did we do this? We had HP, we had Tandem, we had IBM, we had all these systems running in our environment. So we had to make a conscious decision to move 97% of them to x86. Now, what happened to the 3%? Now, you will have this common problem. A lot of customers say, oh, my core application's working on this legacy system, so I can't move this application across. I will go through some software vendor issues and things like that. So the common challenges are the same. We experienced it, but I'll give you some pointers in terms of how we get around it. Once we moved to the x86, we then had to standardize on 2 primary server images. So the 2 server images we used is .NET and Windows for all our online applications, and Oracle and Linux for all our financial applications. For our desktops, we use a single global client image. So this is pretty much very straightforward in terms of a CAPEX discussion. When we looked at simplifying the unification of all these key points here in terms of reaching consolidation, we saw a lot of benefits from virtualization. So what we did was we virtualized 11,000 servers, and that eliminated 6,000 servers automatically from the physical arena. Okay? Now, that's still CAPEX savings. Now, when we look at CAPEX savings as a CIO, it's very easy to say this is the cost benefit, but it's not very easy to execute. Now, once we've embraced virtualization, it was easy for us to automate and boost productivity within the organization. And we did that by reducing the number of individual software tools, and we also offloaded some of the simple tasks from our IT help desk, things like resetting passwords, requesting for simple IT break-fix stuff. We removed that and we automated it. Now, this didn't come that easy. There was the old method and the new method, and this is where you have to break the divide between the CIO and the business. Now, before we enter this transformation, the old method of Dell's IT was, if your business is generating 20% revenue, your IT budget will be 20%. So just say, for example, if you're running in Asia, and India is 20% of the IT budget, they will get, 20% of the revenue, they will get an equivalent amount of cut for their IT budget. But then this doesn't scale. And another issue that we found internally was the business units were organized by geographical locations, which means we had leaders sitting in the US, we had leaders sitting in APJ, we had leaders sitting in EMEA and Africa. Now what happened there is you're starting to have all these people running their own P&L and they're duplicating systems. That created application duplication. All right, we ended up with 5 ordering systems and 7 order management systems. All right, so this was a big paradigm shift. So the business decided 2.5 years ago, let's now focus our business based on sales segmentation. So they brought it up to a global view, and what happened when you started having global leaders is they automatically wanted to cut cost in their IT because they could see the inefficiencies of the application that's causing the pain. So the new method of how Dell was looking at IT was, first of all, from a business perspective, is we cut it by customer segmentation, which means now the leaders have to cut the costs. But if you look at the next where it says business pays for the true cost of IT services, is the CIO and Dell IT decided is now we charge the cost centers or the business units for the real IT consumption that they use. So if they're using 10 mobile phones, they're using 10 virtual instances, they're using anything specifically for their business, we will charge them for it. And they did this by embracing virtualization, because once you reach that area of virtualization, then you're abstracting the layer of the workload from the hardware. So tomorrow the business decides, okay, that's not really critical for me, I can shut it down. Okay, so then the prioritization comes back. So the earlier point in terms of governance and policies is the business decides, okay, I don't need a set of applications or services. Then the CIO can say, okay, your lease is up for this specific virtual machine, and they can shut it down. So we drove a lot of savings down. The applications plummeted from 2007, from 8,000 to 2,200 applications in 2011. Look at the savings that we will get not only from the hardware, the application, the support, and the maintenance. So the results are pretty impressive. If you look at how much we spent on innovation in 2004 versus now, it's increased. We've also embraced virtualization in a very rapid pace. And all this gives us a tangible savings of 300 million a year. So those were the kind of steps that we had to take to get to this IT transformation. So how you get there matters. Now let's put the ball in your court. When you look at efficiency and leveraging the existing environment that you have, some of you may be in the others quadrant where you've made decisions to buy certain proprietary products. Some of you may have embraced some of our products. But as you move forward, let's not repeat what happened 5 to 10 years ago, where a single vendor strategy will create silos within your organization, and it's very difficult to move. Now remember, we were looking at it from a hardware perspective. So when you look at it from a hypervisor perspective, would you now put your whole organization on a single hypervisor strategy? That's the question that you have to consider when you're selecting your next project. So you always have to make sure that, will your vendor out-innovate the market, or will they help you integrate in an open fashion? So if we look at the IT customers, they fall into 2 buckets. Not all of them have to embrace cloud. You have 2 types of customers. One we call the revolutionary customers. These are the Tencents, Baidu.com, Microsoft, who want to leapfrog because they run IT as an asset. And then you have the evolutionary customers, where they take a step-by-step approach of simplify, standardize, and automate. Now, part of it is to get to one of these attributes. To intelligently automate my storage, have simple self-service capability, flexible cloud sourcing, maybe move offloading some of this stuff to a SaaS, or even looking at converged operations. The decision is yours in terms of how you view your organization. So let's look at the revolutionary approach. Now, during the break, we played the video on how Microsoft Bing Maps actually came and built a data center through our MDC. Now, that's what we call a revolutionary approach. Now, the way Dell drives this is through a dedicated team called the Data Center Services Organization, the DCS organization. Now, what this organization came out and did was they customized solutions specifically for Web 2.0 and cloud-based customers. We then extended that architecture to the mainstream customers through our offering called PowerHC. Now, offering a box is not enough. We have to extend it to having an infrastructure or reference architecture that supports it. So what Dell did with the open community is we developed Crowbar, which automated the part for new application development and deployment. And that's with the OpenStack community. And the other things that we did with Aster Data and Cloudera was to build reference stacks. So if you're a telco company or financial services company, you'll be able to embrace this. So let's come back to Bing Maps. If you saw the video earlier, it took 60 days to drop that modular data center in. Now, some of the key aspects of how Microsoft did this was very interesting. Now, how many of you are familiar with Bing Maps? So Bing Maps is similar to Google Maps. It gives you a bird's eye view, it gives you satellite images and things like that from the Bing website. So to do this, Microsoft embarked on a new strategy. They took some space, an 8-acre space in Colorado, and they said, okay, I'm running a container, it's driving 1 megawatt of power, and I need to reduce it, and I need to build a new modular data center. So they came to us, we looked at it, and they said, you know, we like the MDC, it gives us the flexibility. And let me not forget by telling you this, they had heterogeneous environment within that modular data center. So this modular data center powered 440 AMD servers. It had 17.6 petabyte of storage. It transferred 250 terabytes within a day between one container to the other. And this will shock you. The one container that they had that was running on 1 megawatt transferred to this new modular data center, which only consumed 180 kilowatts. They reduced their power spend by 80%, and they increased their compute capacity by 5 times. So for them to now look at the cost savings is good because they can now spend more on innovation. Now let's look at the flip side in terms of the customers that take the evolutionary approach. A lot of customers in the evolutionary approach are bogged down with a lot of tools. Every customer visit I go to is saying, you know, I had VMware come and tell me a story, Microsoft come and tell me a story, some other vendors come and tell me a story. It's all good, but it takes a lot of time. When I visit CIOs and customers and when they tell me I've embraced virtualization, but I don't have time because all my IT guys are trying to figure these things out, I question, why do you even virtualize in the first place? Virtualize is supposed to reduce some of those tasks. So when we look at how Dell is approaching an open and integrated platform, we started off with the technology built into the box. So can I have a show of hands? How many of you bought a server in the last 12 months? Wow, there's a few of you. How many of you noticed that we have an embedded lifecycle controller on that specific machine? One. So this is like buying a very good machine, but not utilizing the most out of it. Now, this embedded management has a lot of business benefits. First of all, it accelerates some of your server deployments directly out of the box. You can also automate some of the features with your storage box and also your networking options. Now I'll come to that in a minute, but what I want you to have an overview is with the next video on how this embedded management simplifies our open message. You will notice in this video that we are also integrating our consoles with all the major vendors that we have in the market. Can you please play the video?
Server management is an essential part of every well-oiled IT department, but this can require a ton of work, especially staying on top of mixed IT environments and a variety of systems management tools. This makes manual IT management procedures costly, time-consuming, and inefficient, particularly when balancing physical, virtual, local, and remote environments. What if you could automate all the most essential server management tasks? And what if those capabilities also worked with other systems management tools you already own? With Dell's OpenManage portfolio, you can. OpenManage is a hardware management solution that helps IT departments more efficiently manage Dell servers in multiple environments, in-band and out-of-band, with or without an agent. Independent of operating systems or hypervisors, embedded management feature, iDRAC with Lifecycle Controller, helps automate the most frequently performed management tasks on your Dell hardware, such as deploying, updating, monitoring, and maintaining. iDRAC with Lifecycle Controller is available in the latest Dell PowerEdge servers, helping your IT resources become more productive and your IT environment more cost-effective and easily maintained. Dell OpenManage also integrates with leading third-party systems management solutions you may already own, meaning you can maintain your single point of control and capitalize on your existing investment. As data centers evolve, Dell's unique combination of built-in management capabilities and integration with third-party solutions puts you at the forefront of hardware management efficiency. Visit our website to learn more about the Dell OpenManage portfolio.
So that's exciting stuff. So if you haven't used it yet, when you go back, speak to your IT team and see whether they're embracing some of the key aspects of it. I'm going to touch a few on it. But I also want to take an opportunity to talk to you about what's coming on our 12th generation servers next year. What you'll see, apart from the lifecycle controller, is there's going to be more innovations around converged networking, PCIe flash, and other enhancements within the processors like Sandy Bridge. Now, all this is to drive better innovation from the server aspect. Now, when we look at some of these key benefits of the lifecycle controller, I want to talk about a customer. The customer is Verticore. They are a hosting company based out of the US. And they started embracing this technology when they started deploying a lot of virtual instances. So the objective of the company was very simple. They needed to launch something called vCloud Express, where they could offer to their customers. Now, what they found is they were sold on the benefits of EqualLogic and SandHQ and all the benefits of storage tiering. But they said, you know, if only I could streamline that benefit from the server as well. Because what they found is whenever they wanted to sell this specific instance, it took 7 minutes for the instance to go from the storage to the host and to come back and create it from the template. So they integrated it with VMware's vStorage APIs. And what they could then do with the lifecycle controller coming from the server is to offload some of those tasks directly offline. They could be able to do all the send data copy stuff. Now, the business benefit there was from 7 minutes, they were able to drive that speed to productivity to 1 minute. Now, imagine I can now order that instance and it's ready in a minute. So if you're doing it for thousands of servers, 7 minutes is a very long time. So when we look at some of the benefits of the acceleration, the other things that the lifecycle control allows you to do is automate some of the hardware replacement. So if you're looking at replacing a motherboard or network card or things like that, how do you able to reconfigure this in time? What this allows you to do is do the parts replacement, and upon a reboot, you'll go out to the network, go through the repository in Dell, pull the latest firmwares, and flash it directly on your servers. There's no longer a need for you to have IT people keeping revisions of what is running on the server. That's probably 2001. It's 2011. There's a lot of automation that reduces the task. So whenever you go and look at your IT people, look at the man hours that they're spending. With Verticore, just by doing these two aspects of looking at their storage and their server administration, they were able to reduce 400 man hours on their storage and 20 man hours on their server administration. It's a lot of hours when you look at it. And it also reduces human error. Now, you also need to have the ability to control the power that you go through the rack. So with the latest Dell hardware, the way we achieve the PUEs in Microsoft Bing is also to embrace the fresh air concept, where our servers are able to run at 45 degrees. Now, you need to have a monitoring capability to do that, and that comes directly out of the box with the Dell PowerEdge servers. How many of you spend a lot of your IT budgets on agents? Agents are becoming the thing of the past. What Dell allows you to do is agent-free monitoring on the latest 12G servers. It's going to be a new functionality. You'll be able to get alerts even if the server is offline. Now, there's no longer a need of you buying additional tools to actually embed in your OS to drive monitoring and management capability. So this is going to be a key differentiator when you're selecting your server vendor. So when we look at the Dell difference in systems management, let's start at the box. Let's drive the efficiency, train our IT people to embrace all this functionality. We integrate into major consoles, and we will be doing it more and more as we hit the virtual era. Because a lot of customers that I meet say, I have the hypervisor tools, I can manage my virtual environment. The moment my hardware fails, I don't know what's going on. So this is a good opportunity to see what Dell's doing in that space. So why is virtualization so challenging? It's time that we spend in terms of waste, in terms of doing all these tasks that I was talking to you about. Process. There's a lot of process in terms of bringing an instance to the instance to life in terms of a VMware instance, and then the skills. You might have people with VMware capabilities, Microsoft capabilities, and they have an issue in terms of a different point of view of how your virtualization should be deployed. So how do we remove all this stuff? So TechTarget did this, and they said 2/3 of organizations have virtualized 50% or less of their infrastructure. And I can tell you, some customers are still running it in test and development and have not embraced it in production environment. So to remove this complexity, we've gone one step further. Dell has removed the need for your IT people to come up with a reference architecture. We are launching at the end of this month this specific stack. It's called the Dell vStart series. This is a stack that allows you to roll it into your environment and start virtualizing straight away. You can buy it in VMware flavors, Microsoft flavors, and you can even size it up based on the requirements you need, anywhere from 50 VMs to up to 200 VMs. So the choice is yours. So this is bringing speed of deployment to your environment. So I'm going to take a minute to play the next video to show you the benefits of vStart.
Building a virtual infrastructure can be a painstaking and tedious process that requires expertise in compute, networking, storage, applications, and management. Today, to get the most out of a virtual infrastructure, it has to do all of this, and it needs to get done fast. Designing a virtual infrastructure takes a clear understanding of how servers, storage, and networking are compatible, interdependent, and support business demands. The process usually requires evaluating and ordering lots of parts, usually from a long list of vendors, and then waiting for everything to arrive. With design done and all parts in hand, the fun now begins, assembling and integrating. This quickly becomes a full-time job, often requiring IT, networking, server, and storage expertise. With everything racked and ready, now comes configuration, a stage that usually requires even more IT expertise, along with testing, tools, and troubleshooting. Not to mention outside know-how that probably wasn't in the original budget. And only after all of this has taken place do you now truly have a virtual infrastructure that can run virtual machines. These steps can take months, and even if done perfectly, there's still a risk that this virtual infrastructure won't meet business needs now or in the future. What if Dell vStart could completely transform, simplify, and manage this process for you? With Dell vStart, we've eliminated the time, trouble, and risk associated with building a virtual infrastructure by handling the most challenging steps for you. Dell vStart arrives ready to go, pre-sized, pre-tested, pre-racked, pre-cabled, and pre-labeled. So there's no more concern over assembling, configuring, and dealing with multiple vendors. It even comes with a Dell services specialist who gets you running in a fraction of the time and cost it takes today. All you have to do with Dell vStart is pick the size you need, place your order, and start deploying your virtual machines. The rest of the work is done for you. With Dell vStart, we help you start simple, start fast, and start smart.
Excited about that? It's a lot of changes that we've done because it's a reference architecture ready to go. So you no longer have to have your IT guys go and look at evaluation of what the next benchmarks is and things like that. When we come out with the stack, we give you the benchmarks, we give you all the pre-tested environments, the storage recommendations, everything part of that vStart stack. So you're optimized to run X number of VMs in that environment. So this is exciting stuff. Look out for it next month. Now, when we look at standardizing some of these common tasks, and I'm going to have this video playing in the background as I speak, is in terms of reducing the number of tasks. So when we look at how we do VMware today, so a lot of your guys are trained on vCenter, and Dell goes and partners with VMware, and we've developed what we call a Dell management plugin for vCenter. All right, and what you'll see in this quick snapshot is the number of steps. So traditionally, if you have vCenter in your environment, the thing on your far right is how you traditionally deploy ESX. Take note of the number of steps that your IT guy has to go through and see what we've spent in our R&D to automate it. And the speed that we've automated in terms of delivering that virtual instance, it took 9 steps for Dell. So if you buy vStart, pre-configured, ready to go, within 9 steps, you're ready to go and deploy your virtual machines. So we reduce the complexity, improve the speed of deployment, and minimize the risk of any errors. And that's still going as we speak. So when you look at things like this, other things you should be considering is, okay, what if I'm having a VMware environment and I'm having a Zen environment and a Hyper-V environment? How do I now consolidate all that and have it deployed easily? Because as part of delivering IT as a service, you must be able to deliver the services that your engineers are building on all these 3 platforms. And that took 55 steps. So I haven't used the word cloud yet. So we went through this whole notion of getting the infrastructure ready, looking at system management, how we manage our hardware, and the last two steps is what's going to get you to the cloud. Dynamic workload mobility and recovery management. Today, when you go with your hypervisor vendor and you've selected all the 3 hypervisors, how do you now ensure that you're able to manage that through a single console? How are you able to create an app store-like feature that you can deliver this seamlessly to your end users? It's becoming a painful task because if you're going down a single vendor or hypervisor strategy, this is becoming even more of a complex situation. So what Dell did was we acquired a company called Scalent, which became the basis of Advanced Infrastructure Manager. Now the purpose of AIM was we could abstract the workload from the hardware, put it in a persona, and move it across a heterogeneous environment. Let me repeat that. Move it in a heterogeneous environment. So no longer am I building a 2-letter word or 3-letter word company and moving the virtual machines and the siloed VMware farms that I'm building. I'm now able to dynamically convert this. Now, what's the benefit of doing this? First of all, you can roll up and roll back when you need it. So what I mean by that is if I need to scale from physical to virtual and virtual to physical, AIM allows me to do that. If I need expansion of space during peak periods, AIM is able to do that. Now, when the GFC's around the corner, we've got issues with Eurozone and all this stuff, IT budgets are always going to come under pressure. AIM is one of those utilities when you need to roll back to a physical instance or deliver it to a virtual instance will really help your company scale and reclaim resources. You'll be able to re-provision or free up the space when you utilize this software. The last portion is having that self-service capability, where you're able to show each business unit how much IT you're consuming. And you're doing that by having a single console. So let's bring this all together. You have a user. He can be accessing it from a desktop, tablet, mobile phone. He needs a specific service. He authenticates, authorizes. It goes to a self-service catalog. Think of this as an app store. Now with Dell's VIS Creator, I can now populate that not only with VMware workloads, I can populate it with VMware workloads, Microsoft Hyper-V workloads, and also Zen workloads. That's simplifying your tool from 3 to 1. The other thing you will see is your IT administration will be able to manage this very frequently because you'll now open up a host of possibilities for your end user. And how will that take an impact to your provisioning in terms of your environment? And that's where AIM comes in. So if you have HP, IBM, Dell hardware, now you're able to move that workload, scale it up, and deliver that service seamlessly to your end users. And that's our point of view on how our virtual integrated system will work. And look at the bottom. It supports all the specific hardwares that we've covered. So this is a true heterogeneous offering that we are bringing to market, and it's already available in your region. So the benefits of Dell integrated system not only stops at the virtualization layer. It's a true end-to-end system, integrating your system management capabilities. You're able to respond to business in minutes. You're reducing the number of tasks, as we've shown a few areas, and these are some of the benefits. The last box there shows physical and virtual. This is a very key aspect for a lot of customers. Dell IT. Just want to skip one slide. I want to talk about Dell IT, because Dell IT had this challenge. They were running Oracle WebLogic, and they were told they can't virtualize that application. So they said, okay, it's going to be a bit tough because I'm concerned about my software vendor support. So what we did was we told them, okay, scale it when you need it with AIM. So see whether you can do a POC and transfer it, and it worked. And whenever they needed a support request, they rolled it back to a physical instance. So for customers who are concerned that I can't virtualize an application, question to see how long can your core applications run on your legacy systems, because at some point you need to scale that out. Okay, so just remember that one of the usages of AIM is through that. Now I want to go back one slide. Clemson. Now I want to talk about the business objective of Clemson. Now Clemson University was a university in the US. They had one business objective. They wanted to be the biggest research university that delivered HPC services and also grid cloud. Now, Jim Bottom, when he started off this organization, or when he entered this organization, he had flames blowing at this data center. He says there were overhauls that were required for this specific data center. But within the span of months, by using standardize, simplify, automate, and embracing some of the technologies with AIM, he was able to create a HPC infrastructure which is 90th, the fastest, it's number 90 in the fastest supercomputer grid. And he uses AIM for his university applications. So Blackboard is one of them that they used at Clemson, where he needed to increase the times when he was using the service for the students, and he was able to roll it back to physical when he didn't need it. So he was able to rapidly restart and push this across a heterogeneous environment when he needed it. All these case studies and best practices, we will be posting it and making it available to you. So finally, my last slide, in terms of consulting services, Dell has a varied option. You hear it from our services organization. But don't be afraid to engage Dell in terms of having a workshop, a POC, and going through the steps. Once you go through the steps, I'm very sure that you will be driving efficiency within your organization, and you'll also be embracing the cloud. With that, thank you. Do you have any questions?
Thanks. That was a good presentation, quite informative.
Thank you.
I just want to get clarity. Hypothetically, suppose we don't get into virtualization. I'll be buying 5 boxes from Dell, and I'll be giving you $5 or whatever. If I get into virtualization, I would land up buying only 2, which will amount to $2.5. What is that you are getting? You are losing your business.
Well, we have to look in terms of what the business need is, in terms of what you require. Now, we understand that virtualization is changing the way commodities are going to be managed. But there are going to be scenarios where we have to innovate. So the way Dell is innovating is we're buying companies. Now, if you've seen all the acquisitions that we've made, they're primarily software. If you look at Compellent, it's a software company. I know it's a storage company, but we're buying the IP for software. And that's how we innovate and shift our focus from the commodity side to the solution side.
That approach is fine, I understand all this R&D, investment and other things. But the bottom line is, you as a company, you are recommending an approach to us, and I'm not ready to believe that you are in a charity, you are in a business.
Yes.
Why would you suggest me something which is going to impact your bottom line?
It's not going to really impact our bottom line. So let's use your scenario of moving it to either physical or virtual. Now, I've just introduced the concept of AIM. Now, AIM doesn't require virtualization in your environment. If you want to just manage physical to physical migration, you're able to do that as well. So we're increasing the software stack on the hardware and giving better value to our customers. So if you want to know where our business is coming from, it's from all that attached that we're driving.
So effectively, the dollar which is coming out of my pocket remains same. I'm not getting anything. Somebody has to lose, either you or me.
Well, it depends. How much are you spending in terms of maintaining your lights on today? So we are building the innovation within the box. So today when you're buying the service, as I pointed out earlier, how many of you buy 11G servers? A lot of them bought it, but no one used the innovation we built in. So no one's I don't see the area where we're losing because we're already costing in the innovation within the box.
Thanks.
Any other questions?